How's it going, tea heads? You know, we release lots and lots of teas every year and I can't do a video about each one, and this tea was not going to be given a video. We love all of our teas. I wish I could do a video on every one of them, but you know, there aren't that many hours in the day. But I can't stop drinking it and I really want to talk about it, and so it's here. The cameras are on. Let's go. This is Sayama Sword. It's a new Japanese green tea. Scope on this tea, this is from May 2024. This is from the Sayama Kaori cultivar, of which we'll be talking a little bit about. This is from Shizuoka. This is from Shimizu in Shizuoka in Japan. Picking and processing, you can see that this is young leaf and kept relatively whole, so it hasn't gone through an excessively long steaming and rolling process. Elevation around 350 meters. So we taste all of our teas when we're sampling to choose which teas make it to the May Leaf collection. We taste them all blind. We know nothing about them. I taste probably about 100 Japanese green teas every year, and we select sort of about 3-4 of them. So huge rejection rate, not because they're not great teas, but I only want the teas that are really doing something special that I really get excited about. This tea I was very excited about, and I still continue to be excited about, because I think it represents, again, it's a subject which I keep banging on about, but I'll repeat it one more time. It represents what I think needs to happen in Japanese teas, which is more variation, more variability. Instead of focusing on, you know, some key performance indicators like cup color, umami, etc., and have a sort of quite restricted view of what a great tea is, we should be allowing for more creativity, allowing for more innovation, and allowing for more different varieties and different styles of green tea to develop. And this tea really does that for me. This is made from the Sayama Kaori cultivar, as I said, which is very closely related to the Yabukita cultivar, which is the most grown cultivar out there. So not one of those rare cultivars. Yabukita is grown a lot and can produce great teas. It can produce average teas. It can produce poor quality teas, just like all of the cultivars, even the higher quality or the rare single cultivar teas like the Okumidores, etc. You know, they produce varying qualities of tea, but Yabukita is generally associated with being a bit more of the mainstream. And Sayama Kaori has been developed from the Yabukita variety, a lot like the other cultivars have as well, in the 1970s. And it's known, but it's not considered to be sort of one of those wow cultivars. And the criticism that a lot of people have with this cultivar is that it can be too astringent. It can be too hard. And when you brew it, you've got to be extremely careful. I love that about this tea, because it reminds me of the beauty, the deliciousness that comes from astringent teas. That it's, as long as they transform, that transformation produces a richer experience. It produces a journey. It produces more flavor notes. It just accentuates the whole dynamic of the tea experience. Obviously, it can be too much. Obviously, you can go too far. Obviously, you've got to pay attention to brewing. But dare I say it, this tea reminds me more of a Chinese tea ethos, which is let the land speak rather than the producer. And if it's got some spikiness, then let it be so. So let's brew this tea up, and we're gonna taste this tea, and I will give you my opinion of it. I've obviously tasted it a few times, so I have flavor notes in my head, but I'm gonna try to approach it as if I am brand new. I'm brewing at 80 degrees here. So that's pretty standard for Japanese tea. I'm not like trying to reduce it because it's the Sayama Kaori cultivar, which some people may recommend that you do. Okay, here we go. Smell of the dry leaf. Oh, I'm getting so much creaminess and warmth from this tea. Sponge cake. cherry sponge cake. So there's a few cherries in there, but so warm, spongy, using salted butter. Salted butter's there as well. So a little bit savory to sweet. It's not got bags of umami, like umami heavy. This is much more about the warmth and the fruits. A key thing to remember. So sponge cake. I am getting a greenness, like, but as if you're walking into a florist or a greenhouse. A particular smell, right? Hot, humid, green, redolent with like these really green aromatics. Greenhouse, florist, but so much warmth, so much creaminess. Buttercream frosting is here as well. There is some dark chocolate, unusual for Japanese green tea. There is some fruit. I talked about cherry, but there's also dried goji berries. Sweet, but a bit more adult. Quick rinse. Why am I not putting that on here? Buddha gets first taste of the Sayama Kaori. Okay, let's have a smell of these wet leaves. Ooh, okay, it's savoried up. That's not a word, but I'll use it. It's, you know, it's become more savory, but not in the same way as so many other Japanese green teas. It's not like umami, you know, it's like umami, which is this particular rounded, rich, sort of savory note, brothy note. This is more, it's got some, again, Chinese green tea note to it, like charcuterie, very commonly found in some of these Chinese green teas, like pate, charcuterie. I know that's going to put some people off, but I think it's a great addition to the smell, because it's not going to taste like that, but it just, it makes my mouth water in it for that savory charcuterie board. There's some jam in here though. There's some cherry jam in here as well. There is some, if you sniff quickly, there's some watermelon in here too. So imagine a charcuterie board with, you know, some jams and some fruits, but with some of those. Is that going to focus? Is that focusing? Maybe this one's better. That'll be better. So you can see the leaves are quite whole, not too broken up, which is why I'm confident to brew in a Gaiwan. Otherwise I'd be normally using a connoisseur brewer, a flute brewer, or something with a fine mesh filter like a Kyushu, of course. So yes, that charcuterie, pate, watermelon, cherry jam, like crackers, but again, fruit crackers, like, again, like a cheese board, you know, like crackers with raisins in or something like that. There's also a steamed artichoke note. So it's like this amazing platter of aperitif in front of me. But key here is lots of fruits and not fitting the mold that I would say is common with some of these, with a lot of Japanese green teas, which is umami. And when I say umami, I'm talking about much more like broth, bone broth, daikon, yeah, like those Japanese broths, you know. It's a lot of that deep set MSG, like voluminous savory note. You also know I'm not stressing about brewing time here. Again, you know, if you look online, people will say, be careful how you brew this tea. Don't brew too hot. Don't brew too long. It's going to be giving you a bite. Bring it on, is what I say. Bring on the bite. Let me just rinse this. All right, here we go. So I brewed strong here. I don't know what that brew was, but it's probably 45 seconds or so. And you can see that is a deep but still bright, luminous lime green color. Here we go. Sayama Kaori. We're calling it Sayama Sword because I expect that sharpness to come. Okay, so it starts with this starchiness, steamed rice, some sakura blossom, cherry blossom, steamed rice, cherry blossom. And then within a few seconds, you get this rise that comes that is like bitter astringency. But the key here, and the key with high quality teas, no matter where they're from, is when you get that, you want it to transform. And the transformation is amazing in this tea. And when you get high astringency and a transformation, you are much more likely to get a very rich tea experience, because it means that the aftertaste is going to be really long, really nuanced and complex. And this is just amazing. Oh, I love it. It's a bright bitterness. It's like a lemon zest bitterness. It's not an aspirin pharmaceutical bitterness. It's a bright bitterness that very quickly fades and reveals limoncello, classic in Japanese tea. So that's nothing that is out of the box, but like a warmth, like brioche, toasted brioche, like buttered brioche, and the cherry blossoms have become more like dried cherries, limoncello, warm brioche. That charcuterie note continues. Like, again, might put some people off, but like marrow, like if you've ever had like grilled marrow and bone marrow and you've spread it on toast or on this warm brioche, it's rich, it's unctuous. It's not so much the sort of fattiness of it, but it's got this warm luxury richness in the mouth. And that limoncello cherry note as well. This reminds me of what I can say about this tea is, this for me is like a hybrid between a Japanese and a Chinese green tea. It's like I've taken the elements that we love from a Japanese green tea, the steamed quality, the focus on the more savory notes of a tea, the limoncello, and that bright, awakening nature of these steamed teas. But then I've crossed it with a melon seed green, Yuan Guapian, with the warmth, the cherry cheesecake, cherry sponge cake warmth of that kind of tea. And dare I say it, with a raw pu'er tea. Okay, I want people to be very clear. I'm not saying that you're going to drink this and go, that's a raw pu'er. But that huigan, that bitterness to returning sweetness, the physicality in my mouth, the fizziness in my mouth, the bright, pulling, textural nature of this tea, and that long, rich aftertaste is so pu'er-like. And brew up another infusion before I go. And I think that's why I have really been drinking this tea a lot. It's just got this amazing fizziness in the mouth. It's fizzing on the front of my mouth. It's dry, too juicy. Juicy is, as I said, limoncello-like. But the fizziness reminds me of Sichuan peppercorns. If you've ever had that mala Sichuan peppercorn, you know that sort of almost sort of electricity sort of buzz on your tongue that comes from Sichuan peppercorns. It really reminds me of that. It's so physical in the mouth. And I think that, you know, like I said before, the tendency to try to be frightened of that in Japanese tea, where you don't want too much physicality, you want smooth, you want rich, you want thick, you want velvety. All good, because sometimes you want those kinds of teas, but like this type of tea needs to be celebrated because it really speaks to like what I love about tea more than aroma, more than taste, is finish and aftertaste. And this has bags and bags of finish and aftertaste and mouthfeel. That bitterness comes and then goes. Such a journey. I mean, you know, it adds a temporal element to the tea drinking experience, right? Because if you drink a tea and it's like, oh, that's a nice flavor, you swallow and it's just consistent, you don't get the time. You don't get that movement over time. And taste is temporal. Be clear, I am not saying that Japanese green teas, high quality Japanese green teas, do not have flow and movement. It's just that they tend to be a little bit more in the high quality teas confined to, you know, a certain shape. Whereas this has got a little bit more of an unusual shape to it. And, you know, clearly this has been produced very, very well. It's a super high grade tea because they've taken a temperamental cultivar and worked with it so that it has that controlled shape. So it doesn't go off the edge. So it does transform. And that is very, very important. Other thing I will note with this tea is body sensation on this tea is different to a lot of other Japanese green teas. Japanese green teas tend to be focused on the theanine, right? So it's about that dopamine, feel good, relaxation, meditative, alpha brainwave activity. This has lots of theanine. It's going to give you that, but it's much more balanced out with a kick. That sword is coming through. It's much brighter. It's much more like woof. It really makes you feel the energy. Possibly the caffeine, probably the combination of the ratios of caffeine, theanine, and other elements in this cultivar. And so it reminds me more of a sativa style, clear, bright high, rather than something that's just going to make me feel chilled and relaxed or like meditative. Melon, cherry sponge cake, very, very sweet. A little bit of minerality though coming through, a little bit of chalkiness, but loads and loads of cherries, dried cherries, cherry cordial, sponge cake, gorgeous. Sayama sword, quick video, I don't know how quick it is, I've probably been rabbiting on for it too long, but I had to get one out there because I really want this tea to be celebrated. Buy it expecting a different experience, expecting that bite, and let that transformation be something you look for, something you seek out for in teas. And let me know what you think. In my view, this is a beautiful crossing point between the wonderful tea cultures of Japan and China. That's it, tea heads. Check out our other videos, Taste Our Teas, wherever you are in the world by browsing mayleaf.com and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the good stuff and spread the word because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.